Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and in today's video I'm going to go over the major antagonist of Tokyo Revengers, the absolute mastermind behind probably some of the most exciting manga chapters that I've ever read, Tetta Kisaki. But before we go over this insanely amazing character, make sure you hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with the latest Tokyo Revengers content. Also feel free to leave a like on the video as well if you do enjoy my content, as it really helps out with the algorithm and pushes my content to a bunch of new people. But enough of that, let's get into the video. Tetta Kisaki, or more well known as just Kisaki, is the main antagonist of each arc so far in Tokyo Revengers, not including the current running Bonten arc. He is first introduced in chapter 2 of the manga as the current leader of Toman along with Sano Manjiro, also better known as just Mikey. Being 25 in the present timeline and 13 in the past makes him one of the youngest characters in the series, being 2 years younger than Draken and even a year younger than our crybaby hero Takemichi Hanagaki, which makes it all the more impressive when you realize how mentally superior he was to every person around him, being able to deduce and challenge someone who was able to change the future, outsmarting him a variety of times. As a child, Kisaki was close with Hina Tachibana because they went to the same cram school, which is a specialized school that trains its students to achieve specific goals. Due to his high intelligence, Kisaki was always at the top in terms of grades and tests. As a result, the other children alienated him, which made him extremely isolated and lonely. This led to him falling into isolation, shutting himself away from the people he knew, which as a result, Kisaki developed a cunning and extremely dangerous personality where he wanted nothing more than superiority. This is called an inferiority complex, an unrealistic feeling of general inadequacy caused by actual or supposed inferiority in one's sphere, sometimes marked by aggressive behavior and compensation. This is most likely the reason as why he only sees people as stepping stones or as tools to achieve an outcome. But still, remember this as it's extremely evident in his behavior throughout the series and something that Takemichi never completely realized, almost resulting in his own death. However, while at this cram school, Hina was the only one who ever treated him nicely, not acting like she liked him, but just treated him how everyone else should have. I'd say because Kisaki hadn't been treated like this before, he slowly developed a crush, which turned into a lust as he got older for Hina Tachibana. We are first given a taste of Kisaki's insanity when Takemichi and Naoto go to meet with the former leader of Moebius, Osane, who even 12 years after the incident shook in fear when was asked the idea of possibly going against the monolith of a personality in Kisaki. Even though Takemichi knew going into this ordeal that Kisaki was an extremely dangerous force and the one that killed the love of his life, Hina Tachibana, he at the time didn't know why and didn't realize that Kisaki would stop at nothing and use every person around him possible to move into a position of superiority. After the defeat of Moebius and saving Draken, and thinking that Takemichi changed the future, he returned back to his future timeline, but he's left shocked when he watches as Akun drives his vehicle up the rear of Hina's car while parked in a parking lot, smashing Tachibana's car into the mortar wall in front of it and trapping her inside the burning vehicle. After trying to drag the love of his life from the burning vehicle and witnessing her die in front of his eyes, Takemichi realized how twisted and ruthless Tetta Kisaki truly was. This hate that Kisaki has for Takemichi stems from two moments from his childhood that festered into something so uncontrollable. Even Takemichi with supernatural abilities stood little chance at fixing them. The first of these two moments was just Hina and her loving personality, being a kind person to Kisaki during cram school, like I've spoken about just before. The second moment is the trigger that ended up creating the current monster that has been Kisaki throughout the series. And this is when, while he is walking home, he sees that Hinata is getting bullied, but instead of going over and helping her, he hides behind a wall due to his lack of courage. Though suddenly, Takemichi showed up and tries to fight off the bullies. Kisaki, noticing the look on Hinata's face while Takemichi was doing his best to help her, made him realize then and there that she had fallen in love with him. This ended up creating such a deep hatred for Takemichi that he would even kill the love of his own life just because he didn't get his way, which when you think about it, it's an extremely human quality of his. This is evident when we see that in a future timeline, and if I'm not wrong, I'm pretty sure it played out in each and every timeline that Takemichi tried to change. This flash forward, I guess you could call it, showed us that Kisaki, as an adult, asked Hina to the same car park that Hina was killed in by Akun, and the same one that Kisaki and Takemichi were also fighting in. There he asks Hina to marry him, and proclaims his so-called love for her, but due to Takemichi being the love of Hina's life, she always refuses, never accepting. Not in any known timeline, hence why she ended up dying constantly constantly in every timeline that Takemichi returned to. This is the insanity and the absolute control that Kisaki was able to manipulate over people. Each time Takemichi thwarted one of Kisaki's plans, he grew more and more impatient, trying to achieve his goal. During the Tenjiku arc, in the final battle between Kisaki and Takemichi, it's obvious just how impatient he has become when he spurts out to Takemichi all of his maniacal plans, which started with killing Draken to take the spot as the number 2 in Toman, then moved to destroying Toman and making Mikey the headless angel. After that failed, his third and final plan was to instigate Tenjiku into destroying all of Toman. He said that he wanted to control Mikey like a puppet and rule the underworld. His plans were perfect and he knew that. There was only one possible way that Takemichi was ever able to stop him, and somehow he figured that out. Kisaki was insane enough and smart enough to know what Takemichi was. He somehow deduced that Takemichi was a time leaper, which honestly I think goes to show just how brilliant Kisaki truly was. The fact that his plans were so solid made Takemichi believe that the only possible way Kisaki was also able to achieve his plans were if he was also a time leaper, but as we now know, this was just a huge misconception or an assumption on Takemichi's part, as he wasn't one at all, or at least he never got to finish the sentence in which he would have admitted to being one or not being one, as he was finally killed when he was hit by the truck. The death of Kisaki is something I guess you could say is a little bit controversial. I don't think I've personally heard anyone who's actually annoyed with how he ended up dying, but I could definitely see some people maybe not being too happy with how he did die. Like Truck-kun is definitely racking up his kill count, rolling through a bunch of different stories and showing up killing off a bunch of different people with a quick drive-by. But all jokes aside, I honestly think that he was given the kind of death that he really deserved. I'm not going to lie and say that I personally liked him as a character or connected with him, so I miss his character. But like Takemichi said, I hate Kisaki to death. I can't help but loathe him. There is no way I'll respect someone like him. He said it himself. He did it all because he loved Hina. He also respected me as a rival. That's why I want to face him again. I think this embodies what a majority of the readers feel like as well. Like as soon as he was gone, it felt like the series could have been ended then and there, as the calamity that was responsible for the future outcomes was finally dead. It felt like the series had reached its pinnacle at that moment. Maybe the truck was an easy way to get rid of him as a character, but the impact he had alone was just insane, and I think the truck death was perfect. It was something that I never saw coming or even expected to happen in that matter. It literally came out of nowhere, and I imagine that's probably exactly what Takemichi thinks as well. He was just as surprised as I was while reading the chapter and watching a truck hit him coming out of nowhere while he was chasing him down. Something so out of the blue but completely out of Takemichi's control, which is what we were so used to seeing throughout the story so far. Which is why I think the death was like kind of perfect, because it's just something that we never really expected. We always expected Takemichi to be able to defeat Kisaki using, you know, his ability, being able to time leap back and fix it that way. But as we finally saw, you know, there was no possible outcome where Takemichi ever won against Kisaki unless he died. Writing the script honestly has made my thoughts on Kisaki a lot like more. I really did enjoy his character a lot more than I thought he did, but I think this here explains it like perfectly. And all, like from the beginning, I never liked Kisaki as a character. But then again, I think this is exactly what Ken Waiku probably intended to do with this character. And for that, I think Tetta Kisaki is one of the most amazing antagonists I have read in any manga. I can't even put it into words how amazing this guy actually is when you think about it in terms of what Takemichi can do to Kisaki. But anyway, enough of that. I'd love to know what you all think about Kisaki and whether or not you are personally happy with the way that he died. If you are new around here and want to keep up to date with the latest Tokyo Revengers content, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, and also feel free to leave a like on the video as well, as it really helps out with the algorithm and pushes my content to a bunch of new amazing people. But anyway, for now it's been your professional degenerate, Diavolo, and I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.